What's up, ladies and gents, boys and girls? I'm Dennis. I'm here again with my MCU breakdowns. We are currently on Phase 2, and with Infinity War coming out on Friday, we're going to fly through these next 6 films as quickly as possible. So, let's get started. As we did in Phase 1, we start off with Tony Stark in Iron Man 3, the last standalone Iron Man film in the franchise. So we start off with Tony speaking to someone about his past memories. We actually find out who this person is at the end of the film. 1999, we meet Aldrich Killian for the first time, the main baddie in this film. He also has a small role in the comics in Iron Man 4 issue 1 from 2005, but most of his origin was created for this very film. Now, if you remember in Iron Man 1, I mentioned that a villain would come back in a very interesting way in later films. Well, that villain is the Mandarin. He made his debut in Tales of Suspense number 50 in 1964. It's completely different to the film, but it's understandable why Marvel changed it because of the racial stereotypes and so on. Rhodey and War Machine get a complete makeover and name change to the Iron Patriot, which made its comic book debut in Dark Avengers number 1 in 2009. In the comics, Iron Patriot was actually worn by Norman Osborn from Spider-Man, which is pretty cool, but let's not overcomplicate things. Remember I mentioned Tony's reactor or power source is something to look closely at in the rewatch. Well, I have a theory that since his battle in New York and encountering the Tesseract, it had some effect on his reactor. Now stay with me here. The Tesseract is a source of power and a doorway to different places in the galaxy. Now, the power Iron Man gets from his reactor has a very similar look and glow to the Tesseract. Since New York, Tony has suffered a lot. Now I think it's more than just physical and mental health problems. I think after encountering the Infinity Stone's true power, something was unlocked and merged with his new element in his power source, and Tony hasn't been the same for it since. Maybe I'm just speaking nonsense, but hey, it's a movie guys, relax. I rate this film a 5 out of 6, I really enjoyed it. Plus we get a cool post-credit scene where we finally find out who Tony has been speaking to this whole time.
And thank you, by the way, for listening. But something about just getting it off my chest and putting it out there in the atmosphere instead of holding this in. And the fact that you've been able to help me process. Where did I lose you?
Elevator in Switzerland.
Next up is Thor, The Dark World. Didn't really enjoy this film, TBH, but we go on. We meet the Dark Elves and Mr. Malekith. He made his debut in the Mighty Thor number 1 in 1987. Whoa. Another Infinity Stone? The Ether, aka the Reality Stone. It can alter any reality in the universe, which is why Malekith pursued its power, so he could send all of existence back to the Dark Ages. Malekith decided to change the Reality Stone into a liquid for a reason explained by Thor's daddy, Odin. I won't go into this because it's way complicated and makes no sense in my opinion. We meet another super cool villain, Algrim the Strong, or Curse, which is the same guy anyway. Now, Algrim made his first appearance in Thor number 347 in 1984, and Curse made his appearance in Secret Wars 2 in 1985. Once again, we think Loki is dead, but he's not, and our favorite villain plays a trick on us and Thor once again. But where is Odin? We will find out more about that later. Now, before you guys all attack me, this film wasn't terrible, but there were a lot of questions, not enough explanations, too many serious scenes, and very little humor. I gave it a 3 out of 6. We get 2 post-credit scenes, which is cool, where we get to meet the Collector, who made his debut in Avengers number 20 in 1966, but I'll explain more about him in Guardians of the Galaxy. Next up, we visit our favorite American, Steve Rogers. Now, Captain America Winter Soldier was amazing. If you haven't seen this, please stop the video right now, go watch it, and come back. Opening on a beautiful shot of Washington in the early hours of the morning, we meet Mr. Sam Wilson, aka the Falcon. He first appeared in Captain America number 117 in 1969. He was originally a villain, but then decided to become a good guy, much like Hawkeye. Fun fact, his winged harness that you see was actually given to him by Black Panther in the comics. Very cool. Cap dons the Secret Avengers costume in this film, which is super cool, big fan. We see a lot of Cap and Natasha teaming up in this film, which comes back in a very interesting way later on. Our good friends Hydra make a big appearance in this film. We meet Secretary Alexander Pierce, who is part of the Marvel comic story, but he's totally different to his on-screen counterpart. He's a bad dude here. Speaking of bad dudes, we meet the number 1 villain in this film, the Winter Soldier, who made his comic book debut in Captain America number 1 in 2005, but we all know him as Cap's best mate, Bucky Barnes, who first appeared back in the 40s. He was a kid sidekick back then, but they redid his story in a very cool way, which I love. Now, if you didn't know, Bucky was rescued from his accident by Hydra scientists. He was experimented on with the Super Soldier Serum and other crazy methods to become an incredibly dangerous hitman or an evil version of Captain America. We meet Agent Peggy Carter's granddaughter, Agent 13, aka Sharon Carter, who made her debut in Tales of Suspense issue 75 in 1966. Nick Fury dies, but doesn't die when attacked by his own people from S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, dying and not really dying is something very comic book-esque. In the army base we see Armin Zola again, in his computer form, which we spoke about in Cap 1. I really like the way they modernized this concept. He reveals that S.H.I.E.L.D. has been compromised and undercover Hydra agents have been within for years. There's some cool shots of the film that have been pulled directly from the comics, as you can see here. Amazing film. I gave it a 5 out of 6. Now, there are no Infinity Stones in this movie. Wait, sorry. There are?
What we have is worth more than any of them ever knew. We've only scratched the surface end already. The twins. Sooner or later, they will meet the twins.
Next up, we take a journey into space with our favorite bunch of hero criminals, the Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy debuted in 1969, but they were a completely different lineup from the characters we know and love today. Starting off with Peter Quill, aka
Star-Lord.
Who?
Star-Lord, man. Legendary outlaw.
His first appearance came at Marvel Preview number 4 in 1979, but in 2004 he got revamped to the character we know now. On the planet Morag we see another Infinity Stone, the fourth one so far. It's found inside the orb. This is the Power Stone. We meet our two main villains for this film, Ronan the Accuser and Yondu, who joined the good guys later on. Now Ronan originally appeared in Fantastic Four number 65 in 1967, and Yondu was an original member of the Guardians of the Galaxy who debuted in 1969. We also meet two of Thanos' adopted daughters, Nebula, who made her first appearance in the Avengers number 257 in 1985, and Gamora, who made her debut in Strange Tales number 180 in 1975. The other members that make up the Guardian team are Rocket the Raccoon, who first appeared in Marvel Preview number 7 in 1976, and his good pal Groot, who first took to the books in Tales to Astonish number 13, where he was a villain but was recreated to the Groot we love today. Now Rocket comes from a planet where animals are experimented on for different purposes. Finally, we meet Drax the Destroyer, who made his debut in Iron Man number 55 in 1973. In the Collector's Hub, office, whatever you want to call it, we see some Marvel characters and Easter eggs like Cosmo the Space Dog, a Dark Elf, and more. The Collector tells a wonderful story about the origin of the Infinity Stones, which is awesome, although Rocket and Groot don't seem too impressed. Now I loved Guardians and I gave it a 5 out of 6. We get a post-credit scene with the Collector sitting in despair with the ruins of nowhere, and we see Howard the Duck, another famous Marvel character. He's pretty much the Deadpool of space, and he's a duck. Man, how wonderful comics are. Next up, we catch up with Earth's mightiest heroes once again in Avengers Age of Ultron. Now, Ultron made his debut in Avengers number 54 in 1968. He was originally invented by Hank Pym, aka Ant-Man, but in this film they took a different direction, with Banner and Tony Stark creating the supreme AI machine. We also check out the Iron Legion, who later get hacked by Ultron. They made their comic book debut in Iron Man number 300 in 1994. Another cool tech enhancement we get to see in this film is the Hulk Buster suit, which is awesome. That fight took place in Johannesburg. Shout out to Joss Whedon for making us part of the MCU story. The Hulk Buster suit made its debut in Iron Man 304, and in the comics Tony has a number of Buster suits for the Avengers. We meet Claw, who made his debut in Fantastic Four number 53 in 1966. He's been a foe to Black Panther for years. In the comics he loses his arm to T'Chaka, the former king of Wakanda. Ultron hits us with some logic and shows that the Mind Stone has been in the scepter this whole time, which he uses to create an upgrade of himself, or his vision, but Banner and Stark, with the help of Thor, changed things up by adding Jarvis's AI into the system. Now Vision made his debut in Avengers number 57 in 1916. Age of Ultron was a solid 5 out of 6. We get a post-credit scene with the man himself, Thanos.
Fine. I'll do it myself.
Last up on our Phase 2 lineup is Ant-Man, aka Hank Pym. He made his debut in Tales to Astonish number 27 in 1962. Now Hank Pym is a scientist who created the Pym particle, which allows you to shrink to the size of an ant and grow as big as a building. In the film, the role of Ant-Man is given to Scott Lang, who first appeared in Avengers 181 in 1979. Now the villain in this film is Dan Cross, who first appeared in Marvel Premiere number 47 in 1979. We also find out that Hank's wife, Janet, aka the Wasp, was lost in the quantum realm after going subatomic to defuse a nuke. She first appeared in Tales to Astonish number 44, and like I explained in our earlier video, she is one of the founding members of the Avengers in the comics. Now Scott Lang's character and backstory is reflected in the same way he's portrayed in the comics. I actually prefer him as the new Ant-Man. We get a teaser to Ant-Man and the Wasp movie when Hank shows his daughter Hope the new costume. costume. We see Falcon, who is now part of the new Avengers team when Scott takes him on in a battle in the Avengers facility in New York. Which leads us to the end of the film where Luis, who is hilarious, explains to Scott in his own interesting way that Falcon is on the lookout for him. There is also a teaser to Spider-Man if you listen closely. Ant-Man was great. I really enjoyed this film and I gave it a 4 out of 6. Oh yes, there's a cool post-credit scene which teases to Ant-Man being involved in Captain America: Civil War. That's it for our Phase 2 breakdown. Hope you all enjoyed it. Remember, we got Phase 3 dropping shortly. Go out and see Infinity War tomorrow or whenever you get a chance. I'm actually off tonight to go see it. Big thanks to the guys at Movies at Monte for hooking it up. Until next time, peace, love, and happiness. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all very soon.
Hey, wait, where are you going? Hey, you were supposed to be my lift home. How will I get out of here? Hey, gee, I've got so many more stories to tell. Guys. Oh, gee.